I found out why my dad always lost my Heil candy when I was 30 years old. Every high of my childhood followed the same pattern. I'd spend hours planning the perfect costume trick or treat until my pillowcase was so heavy it dragged on the ground, and then dump my treasure on the living room floor for the sacred candy sorting ritual. And every year, without fail, my dad would say the same thing. Remember, sweetie, you have to put your candy up high or the Heil mice will get it. The Heil mice were apparently nocturnal creatures that came only in late October with an insatiable appetite for chocolate and nougat. Despite my careful hiding spots paired on top of my bookshelf, inside my toy chest, even under my pillow, I'd wake up each morning after holiday to find my candy stash significantly smaller. Those darn Heil mice, my dad would say, shaking his head while making breakfast. They're getting smarter every year. I believed in these magical mice longer than I believed in Santa, even as a teenager when I knew it had to be my dad. I played along because it had become our tradition. I dramatically accuse him of being the Heil mouse, and he'd clutch his chest in mock offense. How dare you? I'm trying to protect your candy. Last month, at my father's retirement party, my Uncle Mike got a little too nostalgic after a few drinks. He started telling stories about their childhood that I'd never heard before. Remember how your dad couldn't afford dental care until he joined the military at 18, Uncle Mike said, refilling his glass. Your grandma couldn't afford to take him to the dentist, so by the time he enlisted, he had 7 cavities and needed 2 root canals. I nodded, vaguely aware of my dad's dental history, but then Uncle Mike continued. That's why he was always so crazy about your teeth, man. When you were little, he used to show me how he'd sneak into your room and take most of your file candy while you were sleeping. Collar himself the H-ween mouse or something. My dad, overhearing this, nearly choked on his drink. Our eyes met across the room, and I saw something I rarely saw in my stoic father's face, pure vulnerability. Later that night, as the party wound down, my dad pulled me aside. I couldn't afford to take you to the dentist like my mom couldn't afford to take me, he said quietly, but I could afford Tistapie and floss, and I could be the mouse. He explained how he'd grown up in pain from untreated cavities, how he'd been teased for his bad teeth, how he'd promised himself his children would never experience that, but on a factory worker's salary with 3 kids, preventative care was his best strategy. Why didn't you just tell me to eat less candy, I asked. Would you have listened? He smiled. Besides, this way you got to enjoy Hildea fully. You never felt deprived, aren't you? Just thought we had some magical mice with good taste in candy. I realized then that what I'd always seen as a silly tradition was actually a father's solution to a problem he'd never wanted me to know existed. He transformed his childhood pain into my childhood magic. When I had my daughter last year, my dad showed up at the hospital with a small stuffed mouse wearing a Heil costume. For when she's older, he winked. Some traditions are worth keeping. This October, as I watch my daughter experience her first Heil, I'm already planning where the eel mice will hide. Not because I can't afford dental care, pardon, but because sometimes the most precious family traditions are born from the challenges we hope our children never have to face. Sometimes love isn't just what we give our children, Pater, it's also what we protect them from ever having to know.